Okay. Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Unexpected Detour, wherein life detours are inevitable. Today, I have a special guest, Tammy Stackelhouse. What makes her special is because she has something I am sure most people have never heard of, and it's called fibromyalgia. It's an invisible pain that you would think the person was making it up, but they're really not. So, with that, Tammy, I'm going to begin. And for those who may not know your story, would you be willing to share something about it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia 2007, I think. Yeah, 2007. And I had been struggling for years trying to figure out why I was so tired, why I hurt all the time. I was in my early 30s as I was trying to figure all this out. And I don't know, felt like I was 80.
Mm.
And so, I went to so many different doctors. It was probably half a dozen doctors in about as many years. And I finally got married in 2006. And when I married my husband, I got to change insurance, which got me into a whole new group of doctors. And I finally got my diagnosis in 2007. So that's kind of how that all started. But it fibromyalgia is, like you said, it's an invisible illness. You look at me, you would never know. But fibromyalgia causes widespread body pain. And the thing about fibro pain is that it moves around a lot. So you might one day say, oh my gosh, my legs just really hurt today. And then, oh, my shoulder hurts. Oh, my neck hurts. Oh, my back hurts. And that's part of why people think we're crazy because you can't see it on an x ray. It's a different pain every day. And it's actually really a problem with your central nervous system and how you process pain.
How did it affect you emotionally and mentally?
Oh my goodness. Yes, that was really hard. I was diagnosed, I was 6 months married. And I am sure my husband thought, what did I get myself into? But, there was a long time where I had to kind of refigure out who I was. Right? Before I got married, I managed the software department or the customer service department for a software company. And I did like all the customer service, the trade shows, the answering the phones, all of the things. And when I was diagnosed, the thing that hit me the most wasn't so much that my body didn't work. I was one of those kids who was kind of always had something not quite working right. But when my brain stopped working, right? Like had always been the smart kid. I was always the multitasker. I could listen to all 13 people in my department and know who needed me when, right? But with fibromyalgia, like my brain just stopped working. And so there was a whole lot of who am I now? What do I do now? And fortunately, being married to a rocket engineer, he literally designs computer chips for spaceships, I was able to stop working. And I spent a long, long time journaling, praying, like, who am I now? What do I do now? And really just made it my job to get well. But there was a whole lot of, I don't know, just like feeling like I had no place in the world, right? Like no purpose anymore. I couldn't take care of my house. I couldn't take care of myself. I couldn't take care of my new husband. It was,
So there really are no symptoms to know that this is going on, are there?
you know, there are some, like if I were to talk to somebody doing this as long as I have, I would be able to see the clues, but it looks like, just being more tired than you feel like you should be. Brain fog, right? Like you walk into the room and you forget why you're there. And so we make jokes about senior moments, even though you're in your 20s or your 30s or your 40s, right? And it is unrefreshing sleep. So if you are someone who sleeps and sleeps and sleeps and sleeps and wakes
Right.
up feeling like you never slept at all, that's a clue, right? So there are lots of clues like that, but those clues can also point to so many other things, right? Lupus, RA, thyroid issues, nutritional deficiencies, like it can be so many different things, and you really have to kind of track it down and see. But here is the one thing. If you are wondering if you might have fibromyalgia, this is the thing. Fibromyalgia acts as an amplifier. So if you are someone where you stub your toe and it hurts way more than it should, or all of a sudden it's not just your toe that hurts, but everything else hurts too, right? So that amplification of pain where you hurt more than you should and you hurt in more places than you should, that's fibromyalgia. And, you can have pain because you have a bad knee, but if it hurts more than it should, and if it hurts in places where it shouldn't hurt, like not just your knee, then it's probably not just your bad knee.
So you really have to pay attention to your body.
Oh, yeah.
And you know why I ask? Because, there are other diseases that'll make you feel tired, brain
Absolutely.
fog. Because I know
Absolutely.
I with the chemo when I had it was brain fog. And then if you forget, people think there's something wrong. And like I was telling you, the young lady, she would complain about this pain. So God forgive me, I thought maybe it was nothing.
Right, right.
I thought
And
I
and
thought maybe she was just in her mind this was happening, and it
absolutely.
really wasn't. So,
Hmm.
I mean, I felt empathy towards her because she really was in pain. And
That's
I
right.
guess because you cannot see this pain, you cannot describe this pain, you think that the person is just making this up, that they're really in this pain.
And on top of that, we'll have good days and bad days. So you'll have one day where you feel perfectly normal and you can do all the things. And then the next day you wake up and you're like, nope, nothing is happening
Oh,
today. I am in so much pain. I am so tired. And it usually goes in cycles like that because on the days we feel good, we do way too much and then we crash, right?
oh,
Because
so
we,
it's not a daily thing. It comes in spurts.
yes,
So if you're
yes.
not conscientious of your body and what's going on, you're not going to know that you could be dealing with fibromyalgia. There's no blood test or anything
Unfortunately, no. There
so
are
it's
tests that we can.
neurological.
Yes, yes. So we can do tests to make sure it's not something else, right? So we can test to make sure it's not your thyroid. We can test to make sure it's not RA. But there is no test to definitively say this is fibromyalgia. We actually look at your symptoms overall, how long you've been experiencing them, those kinds of things. But there isn't a definitive draw some blood, take an X-ray, do an MRI. You can't see it.
So in other words, it mimics other diseases, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yep.
And rheumatoid arthritis would be one that it could mimic. So you
Yes.
might necessarily not have rheumatoid arthritis, but because it's mimicking it, you'll think that that's what's going on.
Except for the fact
Oh,
that RA, you can actually see on an x ray, you can see damage to the joints, and there are some blood tests and things like that. But yes, I mean, there are lots of people who will be diagnosed with something else and then realize, oh, no, that's actually fibromyalgia. Or it's a combination, right? Like, oh, if your rheumatoid arthritis is worse than anybody else's, you probably have something else with it, right? So RA and fibromyalgia, right?
okay, okay. And you already told me about your difficult days. How did you view yourself after you were diagnosed? How did you see you? How did you love on you again?
Yeah, so it was like I said, I was fortunate to have the opportunity to just focus on myself and getting well. And so like I said, I did a lot of praying, I did a lot of journaling, I did a lot of figuring out who I was. And Yeah, it for me, there has always been this desire to give back to people, right? And so as I was going through all of my fibro journey, once I start kind of trying to figure it out and figuring some things out, that was my first thought. How do I help somebody else with this? Right? So for me, it was figuring out this new way of living, right? Like
Right,
for me, it was never, oh, my life is over. It was always, okay, how do I figure this out? Right?
right.
And, it's so funny we're talking about this because this last weekend, my husband and I finally watched Project Hail Mary. And I saw an interview with Ryan Gosling. And one of the things that he said was that, maybe the future isn't something to fear, but something just to be figured out. And that is exactly how I approached all of this. Okay, I'm smart. I can figure this out. Like, there was never any question for me personally that life was just going to end, right? Like, this was going to be life as I knew it. Like, there was always, how do I figure this out? What can I learn? What can I do differently? And treating life like that science experiment. If I do this, what happens? Okay, that happens. Now, if I do it different, then what? Right? And so the way I saw myself was this, I don't know, scientist almost that was like, okay, here's a new
It's
thing to figure
amazing
out.
that when we get something that we become medically smart and then we try to figure things out and you go to the books and you're learning all these new medical terminologies because you're like, is that what this is? Yeah, that was my thing. But I
Yeah.
noticed you mentioned God, and I know for me, I already knew God, but it's like God was calling me. And I'm
Mm,
not going to say this was his fault, but it was a way to draw me nearer to him and to depend
absolutely.
upon him. Is that your experience?
Definitely. I mean, I would not have come through this the same way without my faith. Absolutely. And, I think I said this in an email to you, but, as a little girl, I did not dream of someday getting a chronic pain condition that is, with no cure so that I could then help other people, right? Like that is not something that you dream of. But somewhere along the way, this has absolutely become a calling. And I totally a God-given calling. Like this is a mission. And it's not just, oh, I got fibromyalgia and I figured out how to get better and help people. No, there is this whole other thing.
Well, for me, it was a blessing considering I told you at the beginning the conversations I had, but I wanted to understand exactly what the young lady I was working with, what she was really dealing with.
Yeah.
And for you to come on and I was like, wow, this is a blessing in disguise.
Not even
Because
in disguise, perhaps.
yeah, I said this was really a blessing because I know
Yeah.
you used to work before. You had to go on disability. How did that affect you? But were you
Uh,
married then?
yeah, I was.
Thank
So
God.
the day I decided to file for disability, I will never forget that day. I We had company coming the next day, and it was, I don't know, maybe 9 o'clock in the evening. And my husband is usually pretty helpful, but he's more of a morning guy. So, like, by 9 o'clock at night, he's done for the day, right? And here I am, like, oh, we've got company coming. We need to clean up the house. And I remember trying to vacuum the stairs in my house. And I just, like, I couldn't do it. I was exhausted. Everything hurt. I finally just sat down on the stairs and just bawled. And I'm like looking around my house. I'm looking at myself. I'm like, these are the same pajamas I've been wearing all week. My house is a disaster. I can't take care of myself. I can't take care of my house. Maybe that's what disability is for. And the next day is when I reached out to kind of start that process. But especially with a condition where you have good days and bad days, we tend to look at the good days and think that's our life, right? Or we try to, especially if you're a glass half full kind of gal like me. You look at those days and you're like, oh, I'm not disabled, right?
No.
But I'm wearing the same pajamas for a week and I can't keep my house clean. If we're being honest.
Right. And that's what
So,
it was. That's when they click.
yes, yes.
Oh,
And I think we have this, I mean, there's a lot of ableism in our world, right? Like the
yeah.
world is built for healthy, able bodies, right? And so we have this picture of what that word disabled means. And it doesn't look like what I was living, right? I mean,
Right.
all my limbs function. I can walk, all of these things. But when I really started looking at how my fibromyalgia was affecting my life, things like I would go to the store because I legitimately needed groceries. I would drive through the parking lot, and if there wasn't a parking space close enough, I'd drive right back home. That was when I
Oh,
got the handicap parking pass.
oh. It worked out for you, right? You
But
went back home.
that's, yeah, we
Oh,
just need
because there
to,
was no place to park.
and I
And you
would
probably
spend
were
all
in
my
that
energy.
pain
Uh
and
huh.
you wanted to get in and get out. And you were frustrated. So you said
Yeah.
later,
And I'd be
I'm going
spending
home.
all my energy just getting to the door, much less
Oh,
actually going and getting my groceries and, all of that. It just, when I told my doctor that story, she's like, yeah, you need a parking pass because
oh. What,
you're,
you know what fascinated me? You
mm,
had a coach.
yes, I did.
How did you get that coach?
This was way back in 2009, 8, 2008 when I was having this conversation with my doctor. And way back then, coaching was not the thing that it is now. And I was having this conversation with her about, you know, my life is all going downhill, right? I think about my future and it's all downhill from here. And that is not what I want for my life. What can we do? And she actually suggested they had a health coach in their office, and she suggested that I work with the health coach. And like I said, back then that wasn't as common as it is now, a total God thing. And that coach's help made all the difference. My doctor had been telling me, like, for 2 years, things that she wanted me to do, changing my diet, changing my bedtime routine, like all of these things. Intellectually, yeah, I know how to do that. But like actually doing it, is a whole different thing, right? So having that
Mm-hmm.
coach to be able to say, nope, didn't do it this week either. And then having her be able to like strategize with me. Okay, what got in the way? What can we do different? At one point, I was texting my coach every night at 10 p.m. I'm getting in bed now. And if I didn't, she would text me, hey,
Are
are
you
you
in the
going to
bed,
bed?
right? Yeah. Are you in the bed yet?
And sometimes that's what we need. That's what I think is so amazing about
So
coaching.
she wasn't a coach for fibromyalgia. She was a
No.
coach, a lifestyle coach
Yes.
to
Yes.
help you get back on track with your life.
Exactly right.
Oh,
Exactly
that's
right.
awesome.
Yeah, it was great. And I took that experience when I became a coach and realized that I wanted to help more people like me. And as amazing as my coach was, she didn't understand fibromyalgia at all. And so I had to figure that part out on my own. She was there to hold me accountable and to talk things through and all of that, but I had to figure out the fibro part of it. And so now, working as a coach, certifying coaches, teaching coaches, we can add in that fibro knowledge, right? A certified fibromyalgia coach is going to have all that fibro knowledge and experience and can add that to the mix as well. Not just, hey, are you in bed? But also, hey, here's some things that are known about fibro sleep and why this might be hard.
So
right?
you did a lot of research about your illness.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Because otherwise you wouldn't be able to help other people if you didn't know exactly what was going on.
That's
Yeah,
right.
you did
That's
a
right.
lot of research. If you're able to help other people, I listened to your podcast. I was like, she's really into this.
Yeah, yeah. Started as self-preservation, right? I wanted my
Right.
own life back, but yeah, it's turned into a whole thing.
So
And
you have a lot of people that reach out to you.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's
The
good. That's good.
podcast has, tens of thousands of
I saw.
listeners. Yeah.
I saw. I was looking. I said, boy, she got a lot of people that you never knew there were so many people that had this illness, did you?
No, it goes back to that whole thing about, we have good days and bad days. So if you're out running around, it's probably a good day, right? And you can't see it. So there are so many more people out there with fibromyalgia than we ever know. It's 6.4% of the population, I think, 7.7% of women.
Wow.
It
So
is,
women get it more than the men. Oh,
well,
why? Is it the genetic makeup of us or something?
I do think hormones do have a role to play in that on why women may have fibromyalgia more, but I think there's another factor. And how many guys do you know that go to the doctor
None.
easily?
None.
So I personally, this is just, Tammy's take on this, but I personally think the numbers are probably a lot more even. It's just
It's just that they don't want to acknowledge what they're going through, and
if
they
it's
brush it
if
off
you
as
haven't cut it off and if it's not bleeding, then it's,
right. They brush it off as nothing is wrong. That's what it is. It's like, oh, I'll be okay. I just
yeah,
go lay down and relax. And
take
they
some
don't
Advil.
take, yeah, they don't take their health seriously. They
No.
should. They
Yes.
really, really should. What has this illness, we're not going to call it fibromyalgia, what has it taught you about resilience?
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Because I think
So
that's how you found me, that word resilience.
yes, yes. I love that word. I love that word. And with fibromyalgia, it is a necessary skill, right? So first of all, resilience is a skill, not just something that you're born with, right? So it's a muscle you can build, right? And with resilience, we we have to have that, okay, that didn't turn out the way I wanted. I'll try again, right? It's that what I was describing earlier about kind of approaching life as a science experiment. It's okay, today's a bad day, but you know what? It's not going to be a bad day forever and eventually I'm going to have a good day, right? And so I do think resilience is critical. And for me, having fibromyalgia and having that opportunity to practice resilience, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's definitely made that stronger for me.
And you had
And
a lot of years to practice.
yes, yes. And like anything else in life, right? It's like I said, it's a skill. And so the more you do it, the better you get at it and the easier it is, right?
Right. Do you think, I really believe mindset when you have an illness plays a big part in how you come through.
Mm,
I think your mindset was one of positivity, and that's probably why you can coach other people because it has to do with the mindset. How you
absolutely.
walk into this. Okay, I have this. Now, how am I going to handle it? Am I going to sink or am I going to just deal with it and go through life knowing that I can do this?
That's right.
That's
Yep.
what you did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I said, wow, she's a coach and all these good things. Huh?
Yes,
Mhm.
what you're describing with mindset is one of the three key pillars when I'm working with people. So obviously, fibromyalgia, there's really stuff going wrong in your body, and we need to look at that. We need to, treat any sleep disorders, hormone stuff, like all the things, right? And we do also have to look at the lifestyle part of stuff, right? Your bedtime routine, what you're putting in your body, what you eat, your pacing, like all of the lifestyle stuff. And mindset is that third pillar, because if you just have the other two, you will get to a point and get stuck. You'll get
Okay.
to a plateau, right? Mindset is things like, all the stuff that you said, but also how do we think about our bodies, right? Is your body the enemy, or are you and your body on the same side, right? Are you on the same team? Are you fighting this thing together, or are you fighting each other, right? And just that one thing alone changes so much, right?
That's why I said, because I had interviewed a doctor and we were talking about cancer, and he was like, two people could have the same exact illness. And I said to him, but I was happy during mine. And he was like, because of your mindset. He said, two people could have it, one could be negative and one could be positive. And that's why I asked you, is that how it worked for you, your mindset? So this is what you're
Absolutely.
teaching your clients to have a different mindset. You mentioned food. Food has a lot to do with this too?
For some people, I mean, in a general sense, food does for all of us, right? Like food is fuel. If you're feeding your body junk, then you can't really expect it to be super healthy.
Right, right.
But specifically with fibromyalgia, there are some things that more often cause issues than not. So, gluten, for instance, I would say about half of the people that I work with, gluten actually makes them feel worse. And about
Okay.
half of them, it doesn't matter so much. For me, going gluten free was really important at the beginning, but I am not gluten free now.
Okay.
So it just kind of, it's kind of like the best analogy I have is that, like, our bodies have this bucket that's sort of our capacity, right? And if you don't get enough sleep, that adds to the bucket. And if you eat too many, carbs, if you eat too much sugar, if you eat too many processed foods, that goes, fills the bucket. And then if you have, stress in your life, that goes in the bucket. And at some point, that bucket runs over, right?
And stress
And
is a big one.
absolutely. And so at
Yeah.
the beginning, cutting some of those things out that you have more control over, right? Like I can control a little bit if I have gluten or not. I may not be able to control all the stress in my life. I may not be able to control yet how good my sleep is, but I can make a decision on what I'm feeding my body. And so that helps to lower the bucket and keep you from going into
Now,
a
I
flare.
asked about that because I know they tell people don't eat the cold cuts
Mm-hmm.
because of what's that BHT in it? And don't, because I don't eat the cold cuts anymore, only because of the cancer. Let me see, what else? I know I'm supposed to get a lot of sleep. Maybe I need to ask you about the coaching. But but
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's the medicine I take that doesn't give me the sleep. But I know that water is important for, yeah. So that's
Yes.
why I asked you because I know they always tell you what not to eat, but what do
Mhm.
you eat is what they never tell you.
Right.
If I cannot eat this, what should I be eating? Give me
What
some
do I do
ideas, you
instead?
know?
Yeah, yeah. And it's partly because we're all different for what we actually need. So when I'm teaching my classes on nutrition, I tell people there's really only two rules. Number one is to avoid triggers. So don't eat the things that make you feel bad. And there are certain things that are very common with fibromyalgia that will cause symptoms, things like glutamate, right? So MSG, don't do MSG. Artificial sweeteners is another one that almost always will add to your pain. But there's a whole bunch that's also very individual, right? Like, what are your food sensitivities? What are your allergies? Are you part of the group that gluten bothers you, or are you part of the group where it doesn't? So that's the first rule, avoid the triggers. The second rule is give your body the building blocks you need. And the number one thing that people don't get enough of is protein. And so if you're listening to this, or even for you, if you want to do one thing, make sure you're getting enough protein. And for somebody with fibromyalgia, it's like a minimum of 80 to 100 grams of protein, but it should be about 1 gram per kilogram of body weight. So it's about a gram
So in other
per
words, they
two
can
pounds.
eat beans. I know the
Uh-huh.
beans have it.
Yep.
For
Yep.
those vegan people,
Yep.
they can
Beans
eat
and
that.
rice together, grains and
I
legumes
had
will
that
give you,
today, you know.
yep,
I
will
had the
give you a
jasmine
complete
rice
protein.
yeah, with some cabbage. I said I'm gonna see if I can go like that for a little while. Yeah,
Yes,
because
but
I never knew what gluten was. You know, I had to actually look it up when people were like, they need gluten free. And this lady in the grocery store, she was like, "You ever feel sluggish?" She was like, "That's what that is." I was like, "Oh, okay."
yeah, yeah. I think that just sort of illustrates part of the problem with the whole thing, right? Even our doctors will say things like, "I want you to go gluten free for 6 weeks and let's see how you feel," but they don't tell you how, right?
Right.
Like,
They just
what does
tell
that
you,
mean?
right. It does, they just give you the facts, but they don't walk you through that was one thing I was dealing with survivorship. I'm in
Mm,
survivorship, but what do I do?
right, right, right.
Yeah, so I
Exactly.
had to figure this out on my own, because nobody gave me a blueprint. They didn't say this is this, this is that. So you figured these things out for yourself as you go.
Mm-hmm.
You look it
Mm-hmm.
up, you figure out what am I going to do? Yeah.
And
So
how much easier would it be if you had a guide in that,
exactly.
right? Yes,
Yeah,
that's.
because they didn't tell me anything about, well, they did tell me about food, but they did never say what you should eat. It was a nurse that told me. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, thank you so much. So, yeah. Yeah, because I remember, not to cut you off, I wanted to have some lamb chops. And I went to a nutritionist at the hospital, and she was like, but you can't eat that no more. And I went back to my doctor, and I was like, that nutritionist, you sent me to something, I cannot eat lamb chops. She was like, you can eat them, just don't over consume them. You don't overdo it, but you can eat them. I was like, thank you. Yeah, but the
Not
lady,
every day, not every meal,
right, because
but
if they're telling you that you should have red meat, that was the only red meat I would eat, would be a lamb chop.
yeah.
And that's it. That's the only one I like is lamb chops. And I said they're expensive as it is, so you don't do it. So yeah. What oh wait a minute. It's if someone listening today feels like illness has completely changed the road they thought their life would take, what would you want them to remember?
Mm. In life, like real life, not just, as a metaphor, but really in life, some of the most fun, some of the most beautiful places that you will see are on those detours, right? When you get shuttled off the freeway because there's an accident and you end up going the back roads and it takes you a lot longer, maybe, but you see things you never would have seen
You sure
otherwise.
do.
You experience things you never would have experienced, right? And so we need to take that same sort of approach when life doesn't go the way we expect, when we end up on a detour, right? And look for what are the experiences maybe that you are having now, the good ones, not just the bad ones. My best friend I met because of fibromyalgia. And so what are the people coming across your path? What are the experiences? What are the new ways maybe that you can help people that you maybe couldn't have done before? And it's, building that resilience muscle and just, I mean, especially if you believe in something bigger than yourself, right? If you believe in
Right.
God, maybe, maybe there are gifts on that road.
I know some people, they'll think that God, it's his fault instead of finding peace with themselves and with him.
Hmm.
And for me, my detour, it showed me that I was resilient. It really did.
Hmm.
I mean, I handled it by myself. I went in there, I laughed, I joked with the people. They just had to give me a window seat, and they already do when I was coming in for chemo. Window seat lady. Yeah. Hmm.
I love that. I love
Yeah,
that. I love
that
that.
was what they called me. This guy Jeremy, he was like,
Hmm.
window seat is here. She
Hmm.
has to have, yeah, because I was like, if I have to sit here for 4 hours, I'm not looking at the four walls, I'm looking out the window.
That's
And
right.
that was
That's
it.
right.
Yeah.
And
But
that's
I'm
like, that's part of it, right? Advocating for yourself, for your
right.
needs, for your wants, to say, hey, I need the window seat, right? Those
Yeah,
are
I
the
want a
things
window seat.
that you learn along the way too. And I think, not to turn this into a Bible study or anything, but
No, it's no problem. It's
the
all
verse
night.
that I always think of is that God works everything for our good. And we
Yes.
either believe him or we don't, right?
Yes.
Is it everything or is it just some things? If it's
Right.
everything, then that means this and this detour. And I think there is a big difference, and the church isn't always so good about this. There is a difference between everything happens for a reason or God did this to me versus he works everything for our good, right? One is he made this awful thing happen to me. The other one is this awful thing happened to me and he's going to make something good out of it.
Right. It's how you see it, your projection of what you're going through. And
Mm-hmm.
like I tell people, you can have a pity party, but don't invite anybody, please. Have it alone. My mother always would tell me that pity parties are your personal parties. There are no
I like that.
guests. No
Mm-hmm.
guests. It's just you.
Yeah,
You by yourself, feeling sorry for yourself, but you don't need anybody to it. You don't need to invite anybody there. And like I tell people, they were like, "You never felt bad?" You sure I did. I came home to an empty house, and sure I did. But I didn't let it sit long. That's what it was. I didn't sit long because my verse was, "Your ways are not my." No, I know the plans I have for you. The
yeah.
plans for that was me. And I remember sitting there and those words came to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me feel really good that, God knows the plans he had for me.
That's
So,
right. And
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 that
th-
was my
this is
plan.
part of it somehow. We might not always understand, even
Right.
even in our lifetime, right? My sister actually passed away 10 years ago now.
Oh,
Um,
sorry to hear that.
yeah, gallbladder cancer, of all crazy things. That's
Oh,
something that generally affects like 90-year-olds. but
right.
but she got gallbladder cancer and she passed away. And at several events after her death, I had complete strangers coming up to me and saying, it has meant so much to watch how your family has gone through this. And it's really touched me watching how you have gone through this. And it's changed me watching how you've gone through this. Debbie wasn't here to see that, right? So there are things that will carry on beyond us, right? And the way that we show up, the way that we decide to approach this, the mindset like you were talking about, can make such a difference, not just for our own experiences, but for all the people around us, right? We can teach people that it's okay to ask for help. We can teach people that it's okay to not have it all figured out. We can teach people how to take good care of themselves by watching us take good care of ourselves, right? There's
Right.
so many things that go beyond the obvious.
But a lot of people, they don't understand what advocating for self means. Like, and I see a lot of like campaigns and stuff, and these particular people, they're advocating for breast cancer, but that's not you. You're not doing it for you. You're doing it for these organizations. What are you doing for yourself, though? That's what's important to me. I have to do it for myself. I want you to see me for who I am. But I see a lot of people, a lot of those campaigns, you'll see people doing it for the campaign. But we need a campaign for fibromyalgia. It would make you be the poster girl.
Ironically, Fibromyalgia Awareness Day was last week.
Oh, it was.
It
Oh,
was. So
okay.
it's perfect that we're talking this month.
Oh,
Fibromyalgia
I didn't
is
even know it was recognized. I only heard
sort of.
the person I work with mention it.
Yes,
And then
yes.
that was how I ever heard of that word before. And then I have a friend, she has polymyalgia, whatever the other word.
Yeah, polymyalgia rheumatica probably. Yeah,
What
yeah.
is that one? That's the same thing?
It's a different thing. The myalgia part, that word just means pain. And
Okay.
fibromyalgia means basically soft tissue pain,
Okay.
because that's the fibro part. The polymyalgia, poly meaning many, so that's many pains.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah,
that's why my
they're
friend,
different.
she'll be like, I'm in so much pain.
Yeah.
But she knows what it is.
There's
She
something
knows
worse when you
that,
don't know, when you're
yes, see,
trying to
she
figure it
knows.
out.
Yeah, so she handles it, with
Hmm.
flying colors, but she already knows what it is. But she's
Yeah.
like, I'm in so much pain today.
Mm.
You mentioned hormones.
Yes.
Hormones, is that why women might get it more? The hormones?
Yes, I do think that as women, when our hormones get out of whack, and perimenopause, menopause, certain times of our cycle, right? Like all of that does play into pain levels and obviously brain fog, sleep, all of those things as well. So, yes, I do think that we do see more women with fibromyalgia because there are more women that don't know the importance of actually getting your hormones checked and that there are things you can do to balance those hormones. That's not my zone of genius, but I have had several clients who, when they finally got to the right doctor, maybe went on hormone replacement therapy or, other things to get their levels more where they're supposed to be. It's like night and day different.
Oh, okay. Because I know for women, for my breast cancer, it was hormonal.
Mm,
That's why I asked you that, because when you said
yeah.
hormones, I was like, these female hormones do a lot of damage, don't they?
Yes, although with fibromyalgia, it's more a problem when you're lacking them. Like so
Oh,
many things in
and then
life. It's
there's
like
a breast
Goldilocks.
cancer
Hmm.
that lacks them too.
Yes. Yeah.
That triple negative breast cancer, they don't have the hormones. I had them, an overexpression of them.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
interesting. You're gonna
Yeah.
have me do some research now. Yeah, I like this. I like this conversation. It'll make me do a lot of research on this fibromyalgia, and I'll have to get you back. So maybe if somebody could listen, but this will be into the universe, so a lot of people will hear it, and they'll know exactly what fibromyalgia is because it's important.
It
And
is.
you're the second person I know who really has it, you know.
Yeah.
And well, this young lady, she still works because she works from home, but I know she has pain. I talked to her today and I told her, I said, I'm gonna send this to you when I finish. So you can listen. And she was like,
Yeah.
okay, okay, yeah. But I'm gonna conclude it because I'm sure we all have things to do. And Tammy, I thank you so much for sharing your story and your time with the unexpected detour. And if you're with us, you keep walking because detours definitely are inevitable. And I'll see you the next time. Have a good one. Thanks, Tammy. Okay.